I think it was the blessing and the curse, to sort of finally understand what was happening so that I can be into the acceptance of what is.
At 70, Bruce Willis has just made a shocking revelation. This time, it's not about the career setbacks that haunted him for years, and not even about his failing health, which has continued to get worse. According to fresh reports, Bruce has finally admitted what many feared all along. The cause of his struggles wasn't just bad luck, it was something deeper. Why did he choose to speak up now? What exactly did he admit? And why at a time when his health is falling apart? Join us as we uncover what Bruce Willis revealed at 70. How Hollywood turned against Bruce Willis. Bruce Willis revealed how Hollywood turned against him. It all began on May 24, 1991, when Hudson Hawk opened in theaters. The film was expected to be a hit, but it only earned $7,900,000 on its opening weekend against a budget that had grown to $70 million. The numbers showed a clear failure. For Willis, who had been enjoying huge success just months earlier, the disappointment was immediate and damaging. But little did he know, the worst was yet to come. And what happened next might just shock you. The criticism was even harsher than the box office. Reviewers tore the movie apart. Rolling Stone called it unspeakably awful, while the New York Times described it as colossally ill-conceived. It was not treated as a small mistake, but as a major embarrassment. Every headline seemed to place the blame on Willis, who had pushed the project from the start. The fall was more painful because of where Willis stood before the release. Just 6 months earlier, Die Hard 2 had made over $240 million worldwide. At that moment, Willis was one of the most wanted action stars in Hollywood. His name alone could draw crowds, and he was seen as one of the few actors able to compete with the biggest names of the late 1980s and early 1990s. The quick change from being at the top to being at the center of failure shocked both him and the industry. What made Hudson Hawk the difference was that it was Willis's dream project. He had first imagined the idea years earlier, back when he was still a bartender. The plan was to mix crime, comedy, and music into something original. He finally had the power and fame to make it happen, so he pushed it into production. Willis wanted full control of the film. He did not just star in it, he co-wrote the story. He chose director Michael Lehman and brought in writer Danielle Waters to handle the script. Every step of the way, Willis's vision shaped the film. This level of involvement gave him more power than most actors usually had. During filming in Italy, his control became even clearer. Reports from the set said Willis overruled the director, changed lines as he wished, and even told other actors how to perform their scenes. The set was no longer run by the director, but by Willis himself. As a result, what happened next was nothing like what anyone, including Willis, had expected. As production went on, the costs grew. The movie had first been planned with a $42 million budget, but because of delays and constant changes, it ended up costing around $70 million.
Now we're a nice local bar that none of the locals can afford. Read about these people in Newsweek.
Studios are always careful with money, and when budgets rise too high, the risks become greater. For Hudson Hawk, the bloated budget meant it needed to be a major hit to break even, but it was already falling apart. Joel Silver, the producer who had worked with Willis on Die Hard and had been one of his closest allies, could not control the situation. He was used to handling big stars, but this time, even he admitted that Willis had taken over too much. Silver grew frustrated, but could not stop the rising expenses. Their partnership that was once strong started to weaken. The bigger problem was how Hollywood viewed the situation. The movie was not seen as just another bad release. It was seen as proof that an actor had taken too much power from the studios. Willis had shown that he could run a project his own way, even if it meant losses for the company. That scared producers and executives. If one star could do this, others might try the same. After the failure, Willis gained a new reputation. He was labeled difficult to work with. It didn't matter that he had worked well with other directors before. In Hollywood, reputations spread quickly, and once someone is seen as a problem, the label sticks. From then on, many people in the industry saw him as a risk. Behind closed doors, the warnings spread. It was reported that agents told one another to be careful with Willis. Executives advised against giving him too much power. Opportunities that would have normally gone to him started drying up. Joel Silver, who had once defended Willis, also began to step away. Their relationship had been key to Willis's career, but Silver could not risk being traumree tied to him after Hudson Hawk. Hollywood moves fast, and Silver chose to protect his own career rather than continue fighting for Willis. For Willis, losing Silver meant losing one of the strongest supporters he had in the business. The results soon became clear. Offers that once came without question now stopped arriving.
Frank Sinatra or Ella Fitzgerald?
Sinatra.
5 minutes, 12 seconds.
Hit the road, Jack.
Projects were canceled or handed to other actors. Willis, who had been one of the most bankable stars, was suddenly treated with caution. The silence was a clear sign that Hollywood was turning away. The biggest shock came in 1993. Plans were moving forward for a third Die Hard movie, but Willis found out he was not included. The franchise that had made him famous was ready to continue without him. For the industry, this was more than just a casting choice. It was a warning to all actors. No matter how famous or powerful a star became, the studios would always have the final say. The failure of Hudson Hawk was the moment Hollywood started turning its back on Bruce Willis. What began as a personal dream became a big career problem that stayed with him for years. The movie flopped. Critics were harsh, and people in the industry started seeing him differently. Sadly for Bruce Willis, the struggle didn't end there. In the years that followed, things only got harder, even as he tried to bounce back. But just when he thought it couldn't get worse, it did. Curious to know how it all unfolded? Stay tuned, because what happened next is the most shocking part of Bruce Willis's story. Bruce Willis's struggles and the Disney deal. After Hollywood seemed to have turned against Willis, everything he had built came crumbling. By the mid-1990s, he was struggling to hold on to the star power he had enjoyed in the late 80s. His projects during this time told the story clearly. Movies like Striking Distance in 1993 and Color of Night in 1994 came and went without much attention. They were not disasters, but they failed to capture audiences in the way his earlier hits had. For an actor who was once seen as a sure hit in movies, this fall was easy to see. The feeling that he couldn't fail was fading, and Willis could feel it. A small lifeline came in 1994 with Pulp Fiction. Quentin Tarantino gave him the role of Butch Coolidge, the aging boxer who refused to take a dive. Willis was not the star of the film, but his performance earned critical praise. The movie itself became a cultural phenomenon, and it reminded audiences that Willis could still deliver strong work. Yet the part was a supporting role, not the kind of leading man turn that would put him firmly back on top. The rest of his journey through the decade showed how unstable things had become. There were strong hits like 12 Monkeys in 1995, where he played a prisoner sent back in time to stop a plague, and The Fifth Element in 1997, a sci-fi adventure that became a global success. But for every success, there was a failure right behind it. Movies that were supposed to boost his career ended up doing poorly in theaters, and people in the industry started noticing a pattern. Unlike the late 1980s, when his career looked unstoppable, the mid to late 1990s were shaky. He could lead a hit movie, but also lead a flop just as easily. For studios spending millions, that kind of risk was a problem. The most serious blow for Willis came in 1997 with a project called Broadway Brawler. The film was meant to be a romantic comedy about a hockey player falling in love, backed by Disney. Willis was both star and producer, but the production collapsed in chaos. Reports from the set described constant clashes between Willis and the crew. He fired the director, Lee Grant, along with the cinematographer and most of the crew members. With no team left to make the movie, Disney had no choice but to shut the production down. It was rare for a major studio to cancel a film after cameras had already started rolling, and the loss was huge. Disney had already sunk around $17 million into Broadway Brawler before pulling the plug. That money was gone, and the movie never saw release. In Hollywood, such failures are remembered for years, and this one quickly became the blame landed squarely on Willis. To the studio, it looked like he had destroyed the film with his behavior, and that marked another turning point, one that carried financial consequences. Disney decided not to let the matter end quietly. The company filed a lawsuit against Willis to recover its losses. But in this case, the damages were too large to ignore. Willis was up against a powerful company that wanted to use him as a warning to others. The lawsuit made his already shaky place in Hollywood even worse. The final agreement showed just how much control Disney had over him. To end the fight, Willis agreed to act in 3 Disney movies for much less money than he usually earned. At his best, he was making around $15 million per movie, but this deal paid him much less. For Willis, it was a tough and embarrassing choice, but it was the only way to avoid being crushed by the lawsuit. For Disney, it was a smart move to turn a bad situation into a chance to make money later. The first of those films was Armageddon in 1998, directed by Michael Bay and produced by Jerry Bruckheimer. It became one of the year's biggest blockbusters. Audiences flocked to see Willis lead a team of oil drillers sent to stop an asteroid from destroying Earth. But while the studio celebrated, Willis received only $3 million, far below what he might have earned had he been free of the settlement. The victory was real, but it came at a personal cost. The second film in the settlement was The Sixth Sense in 1999. At first, it seemed like another mid-level thriller, but the film became a global sensation. Manoj Shyamalan's story of a young boy who could see the dead shocked audiences with its twist ending and earned 6 Academy Award nominations. Willis's performance as Dr. Malcolm Crowe showed a quieter, more controlled side of his acting that many had forgotten he was capable of. The movie grossed over $670 million, becoming one of the most successful films of the decade. The irony was hard to miss. The Sixth Sense made Willis popular again, but it also showed how much he now relied on the same studio that had taken him to court before. His revival came through the Disney deal he had been forced into. Hollywood saw what was happening. Willis could still lead successful movies, but only when the studios were in charge. By the end of the 1990s, Willis's reputation was complicated. On one hand, he had starred in 2 of the biggest hits of the decade in Armageddon and The Sixth Sense. On the other hand, his earlier troubles, from Hudson Hawk to Broadway Brawler, continued to shadow him. Surprisingly, just when it seemed like his career was finally bouncing back, the years that followed brought even more devastating blows, not just to his career, but to his health as well. What happened next was far more heartbreaking than anyone expected. Let's find out more about the later years of Bruce Willis's life. Bruce Willis's struggles, health battles, and the final downfall. Although it seems Bruce Willis's career was beginning to revive, in the 2000s, things became worse. After the high of The Sixth Sense and the brief stability it brought, his career no longer followed the same pattern. The years ahead showed that Hollywood still wanted him, but not in the same way it once did. Instead of giving him full control or placing him as the only lead, studios began to cast him in ensemble films where his presence was only part of the bigger picture. He also found himself returning to safer action roles that felt familiar but did not carry the same impact as the movies that had made him a superstar. This slow change marked the beginning of a different chapter. At this time, Willis had to share space in projects instead of owning them outright. By the early 2000s, Willis was moving between action films, thrillers, and prestige projects, but there was no clear direction. He was not disappearing from the industry, but the confidence surrounding his name had weakened. A decade earlier, his involvement almost guaranteed a hit. Now the results were mixed, and studios treated him with caution. As the years moved closer to the 2010s, his career went into a new phase that shocked even his longtime supporters. Willis began appearing in direct-to-video films, the kind of projects most people never heard of until they quietly appeared on streaming platforms. This was hard to believe for fans who had once seen him as the face of Die Hard, Armageddon, and The Sixth Sense. This shift was not random. Much of it centered around producer Randall Emmett, who specialized in quick turnaround action films that critics began calling geezer teasers. The formula was simple: cast an aging star like Bruce Willis, use their face and name heavily on posters, shoot their scenes quickly, and sell the film overseas or to streaming platforms. The presence of a familiar star was enough to generate profit, even if the movie itself had little to offer. Willis became the central figure of this model. In many of these films, he appeared for only a few scenes, sometimes barely interacting with the rest of the cast. Stunt doubles or side characters often carried the weight while his name carried the sales. Reports from these sets raised even more questions. Willis was said to only work for 8 hours a day, no matter the production needs. He also relied on cue cards placed just off camera, reading lines instead of memorizing them. Crew members described him as confused and disoriented, struggling with basic instructions. Handlers were often by his side, guiding him through scenes and making sure he stayed on track. At times, he seemed unsure of what was happening around him. These accounts painted a troubling picture, but the films kept coming. As long as his face sold tickets or attracted streaming deals, the machine kept running. In 2022, the situation took an embarrassing public turn. The Golden Raspberry Awards, known for mocking the worst in cinema, created an entire category just for Bruce Willis's recent performances. It was intended as a joke, a way to highlight how far his films had fallen. But the humor vanished weeks later when his family made an announcement that explained everything. In March 2022, Willis's family revealed that he had been diagnosed with aphasia, a condition that affects language, comprehension, and communication. The diagnosis explained why he could not memorize lines, why he depended on cue cards, and why he seemed disoriented on set. It was not carelessness or laziness, it was illness. The announcement also meant his acting career was over. He would step away from the screen, unable to continue the work that had defined his life. Medical experts confirmed the diagnosis made sense. Aphasia directly impacts the ability to process and produce speech. For an actor, whose career depends on delivering dialogue with precision, it was devastating. The news also changed how people viewed his final years of work. Instead of blaming him for phoning in performances, the public now saw an industry that may have exploited him while he was struggling. The story grew even more tragic in 2023. His family announced that his condition had progressed into frontotemporal dementia, a severe and incurable disease.
When action films became what we now think of action films, but I mean, they're all just the same thing.
Unlike aphasia by itself, this condition also affected his behavior, personality, and ability to live on his own. It meant Willis would not get better. By 2025, the decline was severe. Willis could no longer speak, read, or walk on his own. He required full-time care and support from his family. The image was painful to accept for those who remembered him running barefoot through broken glass as John McClane. His family tried to keep his memory alive by sometimes sharing photos and videos online. His wife Emma Hemming, his ex-wife Demi Moore, and his daughters posted updates showing him with his loved ones.
Keep your friends happy, keep your family happy. You just gotta be a nice guy.
The public saw a weak Willis, but also saw the love and strength of his family as they stood by him and helped protect his dignity during the toughest time of his life. At 70, Bruce Willis no longer had the voice or energy that once defined him. His career ended not by choice, but by circumstance, leaving behind only memories and films. Many people who knew him before still found it hard to believe what had become of him. It was a big change from the strong, confident star they remembered. What many don't know is that Bruce Willis came from a simple background. So how did he go from an unknown name to one of Hollywood's biggest stars? Let's go back and see how it all started. How Bruce Willis rose to fame. Bruce Willis would later become one of the most well-known names in Hollywood, but his early life was far from fancy. He was born on March 19, 1955, in Idar Oberstein, West Germany, where his father was stationed as an American soldier, and his mother, a German woman, took care of the household.
It's a great award.
I look at it every day, and it reminds me of what used to be.
Life in Germany was temporary, and when his father's service came to an end, the family returned to the United States and settled in New Jersey. The move marked the beginning of Bruce's formative years, spent in a modest working-class environment where nothing came easy. His upbringing was filled with the ordinary struggles of a family trying to find stability after military life. As a child, Willis was not the confident figure the world would later see on screen. Instead, he had a serious stutter that made school and making friends hard. He often couldn't find the words when he needed them, and some classmates made fun of him for it.
I went out and hired a junket double to jump in every now and then.
But through that struggle, he found something new. When Bruce stood on stage and acted in front of people, his stutter seemed to go away. Pretending to be someone else gave him a sense of freedom. He saw that acting wasn't just fun, it made him feel free. What started as a way to cope slowly turned into something bigger, planting the first seeds of an acting career he didn't yet imagine. During his teenage years, Bruce Willis's personality began to shine in different ways. At Penns Grove High School in New Jersey, he quickly developed a reputation as a class clown.
Yeah, she does. I mean, they're right on top of it. They got their finger on the pulse of it. So I really do have to run whoever I'm dating. Although it's been
someone who could draw laughs and lighten the mood no matter the situation. Teachers and peers saw him as outgoing, but beneath the humor was a young man trying to find direction. Like many from small towns, he worked a variety of odd jobs before deciding what he wanted in life. He tried his hand at security work and later bartending, jobs that not only paid the bills, but also toughened his demeanor. Those experiences gave him the rugged edge that would later fit into the hardened characters he played on screen. While working behind the bar, Bruce developed another important skill. He got good at talking to people, making them laugh, and staying calm in tough moments. These skills later helped him a lot when he started acting in front of cameras. Though he had practical jobs, Bruce could not ignore the pull of acting. That passion led him to Montclair State University, where he studied drama. For the first time, he was immersed in formal training, learning the craft that had once only been a hobby. But Bruce was not the type to stay confined in classrooms for long. Hungry for bigger opportunities, he eventually dropped out and made his way to New York City. It was a risky move, one that many young dreamers had taken before him. But for Bruce, the gamble was worth it. To keep afloat, he worked bartending shifts while chasing auditions. The path in New York was far from easy. Willis acted in small off-Broadway plays where the pay was low, but the experience was very important. Performing in front of small, live audiences gave him the confidence to experiment, to take risks, and to keep sharpening his comedic timing and dramatic instincts. For every part he landed, there were countless rejections. But Bruce had something that helped him stand out: his charisma. Casting directors often remembered him even if he wasn't the right fit, a quality that eventually worked in his favor. Slowly, he carved a niche for himself in a city full of aspiring actors. As time went on, Bruce realized that to break into the industry, he had to get noticed in any way possible. That led him into television commercials and small parts on TV. These jobs weren't fancy, but they gave him a chance to step into the industry he wanted so badly. These early roles didn't make him famous, but they helped him build experience and show that he was serious about moving forward. His persistence eventually paid off in 1985 when he landed the role that would change everything. Cast as David Addison in the TV series Moonlighting, Bruce found himself starring alongside Sybil Shepherd in a show that blended romance, comedy, and drama. His witty delivery and undeniable chemistry with Shepherd made the series a major success. Cast as David Addison in the TV series Moonlighting, Bruce found himself starring alongside Sybil Shepherd in a show that blended romance, comedy, and drama. His witty delivery and undeniable chemistry with Shepherd made the series a major success. Audiences were drawn to his unpredictable, playful energy. Practically overnight, Bruce Willis went from a struggling actor to a household name. He wasn't just another face on TV, he was someone audiences tuned in for week after week. Moonlighting not only gave him fame but also opened the doors of Hollywood, where his next big chapter was waiting. When Die Hard hit theaters in 1988, it catapulted Bruce Willis into superstardom. As John McClane, the funny and unwilling hero stuck in a building taken over by bad guys, Bruce Willis changed what people thought an action hero should be. Unlike other stars who played tough, unbeatable characters, Willis showed a more human side. He got hurt, made jokes, and felt real. People loved it. Even critics agreed that he had created a new kind of action hero. The movie was a huge hit and turned him into one of the biggest stars in Hollywood. Suddenly, Bruce Willis was no longer just a TV actor. He had become a true movie star. The 1990s made Bruce Willis a top star. He acted in big action movies and also showed he could do serious roles. In Pulp Fiction, he surprised people by playing a tough boxer caught in crime. While his career was doing well, his personal life was also in the news. In 1987, he married actress Demi Moore. Together, they became one of Hollywood's most famous couples. They looked like a perfect family, with 3 daughters, Rumor, Scout, and Tallulah, often seen in public. But fame brought its challenges. In 2000, after 13 years, they divorced. What made their story different was how they handled it. Instead of fighting, they stayed good friends and focused on their children. They still appeared together at family events and even went on vacations with their kids. Years later, Bruce found love again. In 2009, he married model Emma Heming, ushering in a new chapter of his life. With Emma, he welcomed 2 more daughters, Mabel and Evelyn, expanding his family. Despite his demanding career, Bruce often spoke about his devotion to fatherhood, making time for his children. Today, Bruce Willis lives a quieter life, far removed from the constant demands of Hollywood. Surrounded by his wife, children, and even maintaining warm ties with Demi Moore and their daughters, he has embraced family as his true priority. Though retired from acting due to health challenges, his legacy endures. He remains admired not only as one of the greatest action stars of all time, but also as a man who built a career against the odds, entertained millions, and ultimately chose family as the center of his world. What do you think about Bruce Willis's life at 70? Do you think he has made an impact on Hollywood? Share your opinions with us in the comments section. If you enjoyed the video, like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Also, click the following video on your screen, and you will enjoy it.